Hello and welcome back. We are in day 24. I hope you understood what is this API-led connectivity approach in earlier lecture. Now, we are going to design our APIs. So I'm going to design one system API. Actually, designing Raml is a big process. There are a lot of topics. In this video, I'll start designing the API and discuss some few fundamentals. In later lectures, we'll dive deep into Raml. Fine. First, let us try to understand the use case. Assume that I am developing an application for a food ordering app. In India, we have food ordering apps like Zomato, Swiggy, etc. Assume that I'm developing an application for a food ordering app called as Swiggy. So they manage restaurants. Swiggy has a lot of restaurants from which they deliver food. Okay. We want a restaurant management API. So let us try to understand what is the backend system for it. Assume that all the restaurant details are inside a database. So I'm going to take the simplest system. Database is my backend system. Through that, we are going to fetch or add data. So my system is DB. Database is my system. I'm going to use MySQL as a database. We will see the implementation details later, but trying to understand the backend system, because we need to model our system API based on the backend system. So let us try to understand the backend system. So then we'll start understanding how to design the API. So in my database, I have a table called as restaurant, which has a restaurant ID and other fields. I will show you in my database. I have a restaurant database table, which has restaurant ID. Every restaurant will have a unique ID, restaurant name, and the address related fields. I made it very simple. It contains the restaurant name and the restaurant address related columns. Fine. And one restaurant can have multiple menus. So I have another table called as menu table. One restaurant can have multiple menus like breakfast menu, lunch menu, snacks menu, dinner menu, etc. So the information about menus I'll be storing in a database called as menu. I made it very simple. Menu ID is a primary key, menu name, and as there is a one-to-many relationship between restaurant and menu, restaurant ID will become the foreign key, right? Menu ID is a primary key and restaurant ID will be the foreign key. There is a one-to-many relationship between restaurant and menu. One restaurant can have multiple menus like breakfast menu, lunch menu, dinner menu, snacks menu, etc. Okay. And one menu can have multiple menu items, right? The menu items I'm going to store in another table, menu underscore items table. So let me show you. Here is the menu underscore items. Here you can see menu item ID is a primary key, item name, item description, item price, the foreign key. So one menu can have multiple menu items, and there are some columns related to menu item, like what is a menu item name, price, etc. And in our restaurant management system, we will be maintaining one more table called as inventory table. What is this inventory table? So actually, assume that there is one restaurant which delivers pizzas, Domino's Pizza, for example. So assume that every restaurant will have some capacity to deliver. Let's assume that a pizza shop can deliver uh, maybe maximum up to 100 pizzas, right? For each item, maximum they can deliver 100 pizzas in a day. So this inventory table will have a menu ID, menu item ID as a primary key. Actually, one menu item ID will have one-to-one between inventory. So, uh, so for a particular menu item, if the restaurant wants to give a discount, what is the percentage of discount which the restaurant wants to give? Let's say for a particular pizza, they want to give 20%. For another pizza, they want to give 30%. So like that, for each menu item, for each menu item, what is the discount percentage they want to give? And what is the quantity, maximum quantity they can serve in a given day? That information will be stored in inventory. So let me show you, you'll understand. This is the menu item inventory table. It contains what is the quantity that restaurant can serve in that particular day, and what is the discount percentage the restaurant wants to give for this particular item. So there is a one-to-one between these two. So fine. This is the backend database for managing restaurants. Now, I want to expose this database system as an API. Okay. So normally in your organization, there will be a business analyst um, or the product owner. Basically, a product owner will discuss with the client, get all the requirements, right? So product owner and business analyst, what they do? They finalize the requirements, and a business analyst can actually create as stories, user stories. Based on the user stories, I can actually design my API. So assume that according to the requirement says I should be able to retrieve all the restaurants. So first of all, whenever you are designing the Raml, you have to identify what all are the resources you want to expose. I want to expose restaurants. So every resource, whatever you want to expose, must have a unique URL. So I decided slash restaurants slash restaurants spelling mistake, whatever, restaurants. This is the ID. This is a URI, and I want this URI to point to all restaurants. Okay. So what HTTP method shall I use to retrieve all restaurants? Get, of course, right? So get request to slash restaurants will give should give all the restaurants. Okay. I also want to add a restaurant. Through the API, we should be able to add a new restaurant as well. So I hope post can be used for slash restaurants. So get is for retrieving all restaurants, and post for actually adding a restaurant. Okay. Then I also want, according to my requirement, we also want to retrieve a restaurant by ID. Retrieve means get request. Fine. Get slash restaurant slash ID. I want a ability to retrieve a restaurant by ID. Don't you think this is looking good? This good URI? I want to retrieve one restaurant. So I said slash restaurant slash ID. It looks good, but the thing is, we should always start with a plural. Actually, whenever we are exposing any REST API, there are two types of resources which we are going to expose: a collection resource and a collection item resource or a collection member resource. Member. Okay. Slash restaurants is a resource which exposes a collection of restaurants. This is a collection. Slash restaurants slash ID is a member in among all the restaurants. This will give one restaurant. So actually, slash restaurants plural gives us all. It represents a collection, right? Whenever you are reading this URL, you should see like this. Among all restaurants, I want to retrieve a restaurant with this particular ID. So start with plural. Okay. Now, I want ability to update a restaurant by ID. So update means you can use put. I want to delete a restaurant by ID. You can use HTTP delete. So we have to identify what URIs we want to expose, and for each URI, what HTTP methods you want to actually design, or what HTTP methods you want to use for your API. Fine. According to my requirements till now, slash restaurants slash ID will give a restaurant by ID. Now, one restaurant can have multiple menus, right? One restaurant can have multiple menus. How do I get all menus of a particular restaurant? If I want all menus, get request to slash menus. It is very simple. It should give all menus, but I don't want all menus. I want all the menus of a particular restaurant identified by an ID. So slash restaurants slash ID slash menus. This will be appropriate. So first you are narrowing down to a particular restaurant by ID slash menus. It clearly says, okay, I want menus, all menus of this particular restaurant. Actually, the URI, whatever you are going to design, should tell what this will do, right? Now I'll ask you, I want all menus of a restaurant, right? Why can't I design a URI like this? Slash menus will give all menus slash restaurant ID. So can I design like this? No, it's not a good idea. Slash menus slash some ID. What is this ID? Okay, if I see the description, I'll understand that it is restaurant ID. Suppose if I have designed like this. Um, it is not meaningful, right? Slash menus, after menus, whatever we get, we expect it to be a menu ID, not a restaurant ID, right? Remember, whenever you are designing APIs, always start from one side. Actually, there is a one-to-many relationship between restaurant and menus, right? So you can see one-to-many. So whenever you are designing your APIs, start from the one side. That means restaurants is a one side, and navigate to the right side, many side. So this makes more sense, right? Okay, I should be able to get all menus of a particular restaurant. I wanted to add a menu. I wanted to add a new menu. How do I do it? To a particular restaurant. Okay. So can I use post to this URL? Yes. Whenever you are posting, it means, see, this URI identifies all menus belonging to this restaurant, right? Whenever you are posting, it means that you are adding a new menu to this existing set of menus. Okay. Then how do I retrieve a menu by ID? How do I retrieve a menu belonging to a restaurant by ID? So maybe slash restaurants, slash restaurant ID, slash menus, slash menu ID. This should retrieve a menu based on menu ID and restaurant ID, right? Fine. How do you delete a menu by menu ID? You have to add delete. So like that, we need to actually identify what all are the URIs first. Then for each URI, what all methods you want to design. So we are going to design our first API. I will actually log into AnyPoint platform and I'll start designing. So this is my AnyPoint platform account. I logged in. I'm going to Design Center. From the left menu, I'm selecting on Design Center. This is the place where we are going to design our Ramls. So I'll click on Create. I want to create a new API specification. There are various options. We'll see step by step. But now I'll create a new API specification. I'll give the name as restaurants SAPI. Normally we use this convention SAPI. That means system API. This is a system API which is going to retrieve the data, which is going to interact with the underlying system database. So either there are two ways which this design center provides us. You can write your own Raml by typing. You have to select which Raml version you want. This design center allows us to design not only Raml but also open API specification. But mostly in Mule, we use Raml, and the latest version of Raml is 1.0. Either I can write it by hand or I can actually design Raml just by dragging and dropping. But I wanted you to understand by typing. This designing Raml using a visual interface is also easy, but I don't suggest you. Writing by hand is always better. You'll learn a lot. Okay, so I'm comfortable designing it on my own, and then I'll create an API. Okay, an API is created. See, actually, this design center will be internally using Git repository. Whatever I'm going to write and save, that will be stored in a Git repository. And the branch name is master. By default, it will be saving everything into branch master of Git repository. So we'll discuss more on Git, how to manage branches, etc. later. But I'm going to write everything in master branch. Fine. Now, the first line is called as a directive. It says the Raml version which we are going to use is 1.0. And what is the title you want to give for your API? I already gave restaurants as API. Fine. Every REST API will be having a base URL. Actually, the Raml syntax will be like key and values. So first I gave key title and the value. Every REST API has a base URI. I can give the base URL. Once I keep a cursor at some point, the bottom shows what all keys are possible here. I will select base URI. I'll give http://localhost, whatever. I want this to be the base URL for my recipe. I gave it. It can be anything as well. Then the next step is um, decide what all are the URIs you want to expose. I want slash restaurants. Okay, and write colon. Once you do so, uh, it will automatically save and validate. As I wrote slash restaurants, on the right side, you can see the documentation will be automatically generated. The documentation says the API title is this one, restaurants as API, base URI. And under base URI, there is one endpoint which I configured, slash restaurants. Under that, once I press enter, see, it has taken me 2 spaces away. One, two. I'll write slash restaurant ID. I want this endpoint also slash restaurants slash restaurant ID. So once it is saved, you can see on the right side documentation, there will be one more endpoint slash restaurants slash restaurant ID. And I also want to design slash menus. And under that, slash menu ID. See, once I write, you can see on the right side, the endpoints also are getting defined. Slash restaurants slash restaurant ID slash menus slash menu ID. And for each menu identified by menu ID, there will be multiple menu items. So slash menu items I want. And how to identify a menu item uniquely? By using slash menu item underscore ID. Each menu item will have an inventory, right? I want it to be identified by using inventory. So first step, whenever you are designing any Raml, is identify the endpoints, what you want to expose. Based on the requirements, whatever I got, I decided, okay, these are the endpoints which I'm going to expose. So you can see on the right side documentation which will get generated. You can see all this, right? Now, the next step in designing is for each URI, what HTTP methods you want to expose. So again, based on the requirement only. So I'll go to each URI and I will select what all methods. I want to get all restaurants and I should be able to post a restaurant. I should be able to add a restaurant. So I want to describe get and post for slash restaurants. And for slash restaurants slash restaurant ID, I want to define get, put, and delete. I should be able to retrieve a restaurant by ID, update a restaurant by ID, delete a restaurant by ID. Then coming to the next one, menus. I should be able to retrieve all the menus and I should be able to add a new menu also. Okay, I want to describe get and post for slash restaurants slash restaurant ID slash menus. Actually, as and when I add a method, you can see on the right side documentation, it is clearly saying for slash restaurants, two methods will be defined, get and post. For slash restaurants slash restaurant ID, get, put, and delete. For slash restaurants slash restaurant ID slash menus, get and post. And for slash menu ID, I should be able to retrieve and I should be able to delete. Again, I'm just writing here based on requirements. Assume that I have got a requirement so that I should describe my API to get and delete a menu by ID. I just configured it. Then I should be able to retrieve all menu items. And also I should be able to post. I should be able to add a menu item. And again, I should be able to get a menu item by menu item ID, add a menu, sorry, delete a menu ID, delete a menu item ID, delete a menu item by ID. And I should be able to get the inventory of a particular menu item. And also I should be able to add inventory of a particular item. So don't worry, I just added what all methods I want to describe for each URI. I just described, and you can see on the right side the documentation is generated. So still now I have to yet describe about my API. I need to describe the get request and post request for restaurants. I need to describe all the methods. So actually, whenever we are describing, first we need to understand. First, we'll start describing the response status codes. You need to understand what all success status codes you want to define. What all client-side error status codes, that means status codes starting with 400. What all server-side status codes you want to describe. You have to first think and then start documenting about the response error codes. And also not only that, in the input, what is the body you are expecting if it is a post or put, what query parameters you are expecting, what headers you are expecting, everything we need to document in this Raml. So it is a step-by-step process. We will see, we'll start describing each HTTP method in detail. And we'll also discuss about the best practices so that the Raml will not be looking very verbose. Everything step by step. So here, this Raml is all about the concepts, syntaxes. So I want you to concentrate and parallelly you can do along with me. So once you complete watching this video, what you can do is you can see the video again, create the Raml as I am doing. That will be the exercise for you after completing this video. Okay, I'll see you next video.